You're not confused, you're just choosing comfort every single time your future requires pressure, and you already know it. That's the part you keep avoiding admitting to yourself. Not because you don't understand what needs to be done, but because understanding would force responsibility, and responsibility would remove your excuses. So you stay in this quiet loop where you act like you're figuring things out, while your habits clearly show you've already decided to delay your own life. Think about a normal moment in your day. You open your phone for a minute, and suddenly time disappears. You tell yourself you'll start later. You say tomorrow will be different. But when tomorrow comes, your behavior looks identical. That's not confusion, that's repetition. And repetition is always a reflection of identity, not intention. What you call wasting time is actually something deeper. It's a pattern where your awareness shows up just enough for guilt, but not enough for change. So you stay stuck in this strange emotional balance, aware enough to feel bad, but comfortable enough to do nothing about it. And here's what makes it more uncomfortable: you already know what discipline looks like. You've seen it in others. You've felt it in rare moments when you actually focused. So the gap isn't knowledge. The gap is tolerance. You're willing to tolerate a version of yourself that you secretly don't respect. That's why even small tasks start feeling heavy. Not because they are difficult, but because your mind has trained itself to negotiate before acting. Every time you delay, you don't just lose time, you reinforce an identity that says, "I don't move unless I feel like it." And if you're honest, there's a part of you that doesn't even believe consistency is for you anymore. You treat discipline like something you visit occasionally, not something you live inside. So the real question is not what you should do differently. The real question is, how long are you going to keep living in a way that you already know is costing you your own respect? What's actually running your life right now is not laziness, and not lack of time either. It's a set of internal mechanisms that keep repeating silently in the background, and you rarely interrupt them long enough to notice. There are 3 patterns that control most people stuck in this loop. First is self-deception. This is where you reduce the seriousness of your own behavior. You tell yourself things like, "I'll do it later," or "I just need a better day," even when you already know the pattern is broken. It's not lying to others, it's negotiating with your own awareness until urgency disappears. Second is the avoidance loop. This is the stage where your mind starts protecting you from discomfort. The moment a task requires effort, your attention shifts. Not because the task is impossible, but because your brain has learned that escape feels easier than engagement. So you scroll, switch, delay, or replan instead of executing. Third is emotional negotiation. This is where discipline gets replaced by mood. You don't ask what needs to be done, you ask, "Do I feel like doing it?" And if the answer is no, the task gets postponed. Over time, this creates a dependency on emotional readiness that never stabilizes. And all 3 feed into one cycle: awareness, discomfort, avoidance, temporary relief, repetition. A simple example makes this visible. You know you should work on something important, study, fitness, skill building, but instead you check something quickly. That quick check becomes a break. The break becomes a delay. The delay becomes a day. And then you reset the same promise tomorrow. The problem is not the task. The problem is the system running your reaction to the task. At this stage, you are not failing because you don't know what to do. You are failing because your mind has built a habit of escaping the moment responsibility appears. And the more this repeats, the more normal it feels. So the real tension is this: you are not stuck in life, you are stuck in a pattern that feels like you. You don't lose your life in one big decision. You lose it in repeated small permissions you give yourself when no one is watching. And after enough repetition, those permissions start to feel like your personality. That's the part you don't notice. Because at some point, your problem stops feeling like a problem and starts feeling like how you are. 1. The identity drift that feels normal. Most people think they are choosing laziness in the moment. They are not. They are reinforcing an identity that was built quietly through repetition. Every time you delay something small, you don't just lose progress, you train a version of yourself that hesitates before action. And over time, hesitation becomes default. A person says, "I'll start tomorrow." Then tomorrow comes and looks exactly like today. Not because life is stuck, but because identity is already deciding before awareness even shows up. Real life example, someone wants to improve their fitness. First day they skip. Second day they say they are tired. Third day becomes next week. After a while, they don't even consider themselves someone who trains, they just used to think about it. Rohn once said, "Discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most." But what most people miss is this: if you repeatedly choose the immediate comfort, your what you want most slowly disappears from your identity. 2. The illusion of time. One of the most dangerous lies is thinking you still have time. You tell yourself the opportunity is still open, the change can happen later, the life you want is waiting for a better version of you. But time doesn't work like that internally. It compounds behavior, not intention. A person might waste 3 hours daily and still believe they are getting serious soon. But those 3 hours are not empty, they are shaping focus tolerance. They are training distraction as a baseline state. Real life example, someone says they'll build a skill when things calm down. But things never calm down. So what they actually mean is, they will do it when discomfort stops existing. Here's the interruption you need: discomfort is not the obstacle. It is the requirement. If you avoid it, you don't delay progress, you eliminate the version of you that could handle it. 3. Emotional control replacing discipline. At this stage, most decisions are no longer logical. They are emotional approvals. You don't decide based on priority, you decide based on resistance level. If something feels heavy, it gets postponed. If it feels easy, it gets done. This creates a hidden hierarchy in your life. Comfort becomes authority, and discipline becomes optional. And slowly, your identity adjusts to that authority. A simple pattern: you sit down to work, you feel resistance, you negotiate a break, the break becomes escape, escape becomes habit, habit becomes identity. Not dramatic, just repetitive. And repetition is what defines your future more than motivation ever will. 4. The cost you don't calculate. What makes this dangerous is not the delay itself, but what it replaces. Every avoided action replaces a potential version of you. Not in theory, in structure. You don't just lose time. You lose exposure to capability. You lose repetition of skill. You lose the mental evidence that you can be consistent. So eventually, even when you want to act, your own history disagrees with you. And that's where people misunderstand themselves. They think they are weak, when in reality they are just untrained in consistency. But untrained still produces the same result as incapable. Because life responds to output, not intent. So the question becomes uncomfortable in a very simple way. Are you actually stuck, or are you repeatedly becoming someone who stays stuck? At this point, nothing new is missing from your understanding. The problem was never lack of information. It was always the relationship between what you know and what you consistently allow yourself to ignore. Discipline is often misunderstood as effort. That's why most people fail at it repeatedly. They treat it like something you apply when you feel strong enough, focused enough, or motivated enough. But discipline doesn't start there. It starts at the level of identity, what you accept as normal behavior for yourself. When you repeatedly act without structure, you don't just delay progress. You slowly normalize a version of yourself that does not require standards to function. And once that becomes normal, effort feels foreign, not natural. This is why change often feels heavy at the beginning. You are not just fighting habits, you are interrupting identity consistency. And identity is always trying to stay familiar, even when familiar is harmful. So the real shift is not try harder. It is, stop allowing exceptions to define you. Because every exception you justify becomes part of your internal standard. Not emotionally, but structurally. Your mind records it as acceptable behavior. Over time, your life becomes a reflection of what you repeatedly tolerate, not what you occasionally intend. This is where responsibility becomes unavoidable. Not in a dramatic sense, but in a quiet one. You start realizing no one is coming to reset your patterns for you. No moment will arrive that automatically removes the resistance. And no version of you in the future will suddenly feel different without repetition being rebuilt today. The only real leverage you have is consistency that does not depend on your mood. That's why self-respect is not an abstract idea here. It is behavioral. It is built in moments where you do not negotiate with what you already decided matters. Not perfectly, not dramatically, but repeatedly enough that your identity starts to trust your actions again. Because once your actions become consistent, your identity follows without force. And once identity shifts, life stops feeling like a constant internal conflict. It starts feeling predictable. Not easier, but aligned. You were never confused about what's happening in your life. You were just willing to live with the version of yourself that delays what it already understands. That gap between awareness and action is where everything is decided. Not in big moments. In ordinary ones. When you know what should be done, and you choose something easier instead. Again and again, until that becomes your normal. At some point, life stops responding to your intentions and starts responding to your patterns. And patterns don't argue. They just repeat. The truth is simple. Nothing changes until your behavior becomes more honest than your excuses. Not louder. Not more emotional. Just more consistent. You don't need a new identity to begin. You need fewer exceptions. Fewer negotiations. Fewer moments where you allow temporary comfort to override what you already decided matters. Because every time you act in alignment with what you know, you reduce internal conflict. And every time you don't, you increase it. That tension you feel is not random. It is the result of repeated disagreement between your standards and your actions. And eventually, one of them wins. Either your standards become real through repetition, or they fade into ideas you used to agree with. Nothing dramatic changes that outcome. Only consistency does.